Of Arsenal, that is a really important point for West Ham in their fight to stay in the league as well. But how significant could today be, do you think, Roy?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think it's huge when you're 2-0 up and you're coasting. A couple of weeks ago, West Ham conceded 5 at home. You're thinking Arsenal will go on and win the game comfortably. Again, Arteta, you can see there they lose possession. Obviously, poor play, part in midfield. They get punished and the momentum changes. So I think it's a huge moment in the Championship race. Put it this way, Pep and his staff and the players and the supporters of Man City will be, Jesus, cheering that result on today. They know that's a big moment. We keep saying there's a long way to go, but there's not really. We're running out of games, and the more mistakes you make now at this stage, it's going to be more costly. So I think it was a huge points drop for Arsenal today.
There were a few things in the last half an hour, 40 minutes where, and not specific players, but the defenders in particular, when they could have brought it down on the chest and showed a bit of composure and popped it into midfield, they were like heading it and letting it become a fight, or they were kicking out for a corner, or they were kicking out for a throw-in. So there's a little bit of a demonstration in the last half an hour from the defenders in particular that they were sort of, if you like, doing things that were a little bit more rash, lacking in a little bit of composure. And then the other thing was that West Ham finished the game with more energy. Arsenal had a full week to prepare for that game, so there were a couple of little things that you could look at, but I still say it, they're going to go 7 points clear if they beat Southampton on Friday night, and then they've got the game of their lives, and they just need to focus on that.
Let's have a look at how it looks between these two sides in this run-in. They are running out of games, as Roy's saying, but it is Arsenal next because Manchester City are involved in the FA Cup semi-final against Sheffield United. They've also got Champions League games to contend with in the meantime. You would imagine, Roy, that Arsenal go and beat Southampton, given the relative form of the teams. And we don't know what's going to happen between Manchester City and Arsenal when they meet. But look beyond that. And whose shoes would you rather be in terms of the games that they have left?
Well, I'd rather be still in the Manchester City dressing room. With the experience I've got, the manager, they've been on this road many times before. We know they can go on runs of winning loads of games. They have that composure, the experience, and you said, well, you'd automatically expect them to be Southampton when they were 2-0 up today, Arsenal. You thought they'd win 3 or 4, so it doesn't work out that way, and it's always a dangerous game to be looking too far ahead. But I'd still rather be in Manchester City's shoes.
Jimmy?
Me as well. I think when you are Man City, when you're under pressure, they perform. They perform. They get the job done. And they can go the season through with keep on winning, and Arsenal still has to go to Newcastle. That for me is the game, Man City and Newcastle, and I can see Man City keep on winning.
But this title race always started at Anfield last week. It always did. If you looked at the fixtures, they've got obviously Liverpool, they've got obviously West Ham away. They've had those 2 games now. They've dropped points in those 2 games, but they've got Newcastle away, City away, Chelsea at home, and Brighton at home, who's going to be difficult as well. So they've got really tough games. It always started in this period. But if you said to Arsenal at the start of the season, this is where we'll be, they'd just snap your hand off, wouldn't you? You just said, absolutely, we'll take this position. So it's not a time for them now.
How painful if they were to let it slip from this point.
Look, Arsenal finishing second would still be an unbelievable season.
That wouldn't be, Gary.
Well, not now anymore. No, Gary, not now anymore. No.
They've gone from 5th.
Yeah.
They've gone from
They've
gone from 5th.
Right? It doesn't matter. They've got 7 points
You've been
clear.
top of the table all season.
I know, but you can't say just because they've got young players. I can't say because I thought they would drop points on the running, and it's now starting to happen. But they can still get over the line.
But we don't know what's going to happen next year. Everybody is going to get stronger. Everybody is going to get better.
Jimmy,
they might not be in this position again.
Second wouldn't be a successful season.
I'm not saying that they won't be disappointed and they won't be absolutely heartbroken by it, but I still would look at it as an outsider who's not an Arsenal fan and say it's been a terrible season if they finish second.
No, it's not a terrible season, but they will have given it away.
It would be a terrible season if they finish second.
It would be a disaster.
Sorry, Roy, why would it be a terrible season?
Empty-handed. They're out of all the cup competitions. You're thinking, obviously, no one, of course, I appreciate no one at the start of the season said Arsenal would be competing to win the league title. But the fact that the position they got themselves, the recruitment was good. They had a great start to the season. Remember, 2-0 up last week. They were 2-0 up today. So these are huge moments. So I think if they didn't go on to win,
it's there. It's there to
go on to win
grabbed.
the league. It's a huge disappointment.
You can smell it. You can smell it for not to get it. It's too harsh.
But what's happening now was always going to come. They were always going to lose their legs a little bit. They were always going to lose their energy. They were always going to make mistakes.
But still, you get to the finish line. Still, you get to the finish. It's going to be difficult, but still, you get the job done.
Gary, you were saying a few weeks ago they've got no distractions. So Arsenal have no distractions. So this is let's go for the
Yeah.
league title. We're now saying
Yeah.
the
don't play in
squad,
Europe.
they look tired at the end. They were hanging in there against Liverpool last week. That's not a great message to say, listen, they're up for the fight and they're enjoying it. It's obviously playing tricks in their heads now, and they're lacking that. Certain the word we always use with Man City and Arsenal lacking it in the last week or two is that composure, particularly when they got in winning positions, which can happen.
But then also you're looking at, they've drawn a game against West Ham that they were winning 2-0. If they lose away at Newcastle, you would think, okay, but they have lost 2 points at West Ham. That will hurt. That will hurt more than that you lose at Man City at away. You know, today you're not allowed to lose points.
I didn't expect
if you want to win the league.
I didn't expect them to drop points today at all. Honestly, didn't. I just thought the football would be too bright. West Ham played on Thursday night. I didn't think, and when the game was 25 minutes in, that was a wobble today. There's no doubt about that. But you're always going to have a wobble on your way into your first title. When Blackburn beat us for the first title in '95, there were many wobbles on the way in that they had, and they got over the line. They stumbled over the line, and they might get their Arsenal through that way.
But it's also self-inflicted. It's also self-inflicted.
But the argument what happens is if they
was
don't win it, they can still go on and win it. They're still in an absolutely fantastic position if they just keep their heads and, again, a bit of composure. But the question was, if they were to finish second, huge disappointment for Arsenal.
It'd be disappointment, but it was a disaster. It's not a disaster.
You've been leading the whole way through. You've been leading.
I don't think it's a disaster.
To give it away in the last 3 matches, it's a disaster.
No,
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you
Jimmy, if I was
beginning of the season, we're not going to be number one. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You've been number one the whole season too.
Jimmy, if I was Manchester City's players and I didn't win the league with Haaland up front scoring 50-odd goals and Grealish and Mahrez, I'd think that was a disaster if I was Manchester City.
Gary, Arsenal made sacrifices, basically playing weakened teams to go out of all the other cup competitions. So this is their whole focus has been the last few months is the league, because they've gotten themselves in an unbelievable position because they started so well. Players came in, they recruited well in January. So from the slip up now. We're talking about Arsenal football. Arsenal's a big football club, by the way.
Look, last season, to be fair, they struggled to get over the line to finish in the top 4. The same players, a lot of them are still there. It wouldn't surprise me if they struggled to get over the line to win a title. And if they didn't do, I would almost half expect that.
That doesn't make it right.
But when they slipped up last year, Gary, when they slipped up last year, everyone said it was a huge setback.
Oh, but that was a huge setback.
And this wouldn't be. And this wouldn't be.
Arsenal not to finish in the top 4 is a different thing than Arsenal not winning the league.
If you look at the position they were in, they had it. They had it wrapped up in the top 4.
Well, listen,
so they've got previous.
It's not done yet, and Arsenal could still win the title, and they'd be celebrating an extraordinary year, wouldn't they?
You ready for a question? Sam from the Telegraph.
Well, I started extremely well again, dominated the game, dominated the pitch, and scored 2 beautiful goals. And after that, we made a huge mistake. To stop playing with the same purpose, to score the 3rd and the 4th one, and just think that we can play them around them and maintain that result, and just looked too easy. And on that moment, we gave them hope and credit to West Ham because they took it. They did what they did really well. They started to play extremely direct. From there, it went to a long throw, from them a corner, and we really struggled to get out of that game. And if you don't go into defend your box the way you should in the 2 goals that we concede, then you have to do many more things much better for longer periods in the match. And then there is another moment when you can go after 50 minutes 3-1 up, and probably the game is over, and 2 minutes later you concede a goal. But this is part of football. My worry is after 2-0 that we make that huge mistake and don't understood what the game required in that moment.
How do you explain that? Complacency, whatever it may be.
Easy to do it from outside the pitch. You have to be a player, you have to feel it there, and we have to understand those emotions as well. But we need that ruthless mindset in that moment to go and kill a team. When a team is there for the given, we have to kill it, and today we haven't done it. And when you don't do that in the Premier League, at some stage it's going to turn around. They're going to have some momentum, and then you have to defend. For example, the 2nd goal much better than what we did. If not, you don't win the game.
Nick?
Does it concern you that this week's game and last week's game at Anfield have followed a very similar pattern?
Well, the pattern in terms of the result is different. In terms of what happens, it was very different. But you have to accept that. And that's the last thing that we want in our brains, is to not have the confidence that after having the possibility to kill the game, don't do it. And that's the next stage. When you are there, you have to do it, and you have to play with the same purpose or more, and not give them anything.
Do you think at 2-1 there was a bit of a psychological hangover from last week?
It can happen, but again, you're telling that what goes through every mind is probably different. But we all knew at half-time what we have to do, and try to do it better, and it's true. And credit to West Ham when they start to play that game. If they are efficient in those first 2 balls, it is difficult because you have to fight and earn the right to play. But when we did it, especially with the changes, then you have to have more composure to finish the game off.
Dan?
Okay, is it concerning for you as a coach that you weren't able to reverse that change in your team's mindset? How can you get them to...
For sure, because we are here to win. And when you are able to play at that level and then you drop your level to here, so quickly, the game is there. You know, and any opponent are going to be able to do that. So for sure, we have to dig really deep in there and find the solutions to that.
How significant do you think the last 6 days have been for your side in the race for the title?
For the rest of the title, I have no idea. And I didn't have an idea 7 weeks ago or 12 for what is going to happen in 3 weeks. My biggest task is go again and train really well, and on Friday play at the same level that we played the first 35 minutes against a team that is fighting for the life, or against the Liverpool team, but do it much for a longer period and then kill the game.
Gary?
Sorry?
And also, going forward, how do you think this result will alter the decisions?
Fatigue-wise, no, because what we produced in the first, second half against Liverpool, it was similar, and today we put higher inputs in the second half than in the first half. We were slower in everything that we did. But fatigue, I don't think the team is fatigued or look fatigued. And the best way to put it is just convince them how good they are, and when they do what they have to do. And this is what we have to put in our brains.
Okay, we'll do the last couple. Kaya?
It really seemed to turn after West Ham's penalty. Why do you think it had such a big impact this time? Because the team's been quite good at bouncing back from adverse situations.
Well, because after we could not control what West Ham was proposing, and they conceding goals away from home. You can see 2 or 3 goals away from home. It's extremely difficult to win football matches as we did, and we have to blame ourselves how we defended the boxes.
Do you think the pressure at this stage of the season maybe left them more back on track?
I would say yes if I see a team from the beginning playing. When I see a team playing with that flow, it does not. And a tunnel certainly is not the pressure. It's that we really misunderstood what the game required in that moment.
And finally, we'll go to Kossi.
Mikel, there was a turning point obviously with Kyle.
Yeah.
You know, they go up the other end. But Kyle clearly wanted the ball, didn't he? I don't know if there was a discussion with Peters, but you know, how does he respond to that? And what's he doing?
The same that the team has to respond, because probably if you do the 3-1, you're going to win the match. And maybe you win the game for a bigger margin. And then we are not discussing about what happened here. So you have to put everything into context. If you are prepared to take responsibility to take penalties, you have to know that in that package, the possibility to miss is 100%. At some stage, you're going to miss penalty. And you have to be able to react after that. If not, you cannot be a penalty taker. And Bukayo has been through that, and he will go through that again.
He's a great player, isn't he? You know, you work with one player.
For sure, and you have to pick one player to do it. It has to be done. It was a crucial moment. We missed it, and this is football.
Can I just ask you, did you think that West Ham's penalty was a penalty?
I haven't seen the image. And it's too late, and I don't really want to use that as an excuse, honestly.
Okay, everyone?
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Cheers, thanks.